Ooh, God, blimey. I'm a bit out of breath because I've been doing lots of sanding and stuff, so I'm dusty, out of breath, and a bit ill-prepared. In other words, the place is a mess and I've got tidying up to do, but I've been doing things like preparing that neck and finishing that sort of repair thing off, and thinking about that and doing stuff, really. Anyway, so what we got here is Simon's interesting Wilkinson, well, vintage I should say, SG. Now, first thing to say about this guitar is it's an absolute beast in terms of weight. This is 10.5 pounds of Les Paul style, right? And it's a beautiful, heavy chunk. I like it for its beefiness, okay? You will never have a problem with that having neck dive. I can tell you, it is absolutely humongous. So here's my sort of a few close-ish, up-ish kind of stuff that we all know and love from the Wilkinson stable. Lovely dark cherry, ancient cherry, cream binding. Got the vintage. It's a particular model, I've forgotten the name of it, but it's one with the sort of Vibrola-style thing. And there's a real problem with this, and I'll get to that in a minute. But apart from that, it's a stunner. A bit like the one that Midge Ure promotes. I think he has a blue one, Pelham blue sort of coloured one. But it's an absolute gorgeous beast, and it really does suit that Vibrola as an attachment. It would suit it even more if it was a light guitar and it needed the extra weight, but it doesn't. But it does look really smart. Now, the first problem, and this came to me, Simon saying, look, I love this guitar, but I can't seem to live with this Vibrola. He said, first of all, it doesn't really go back where I need it to go back, and you know, it gets in the way of things, clank. So that was one little thing. But then when I started to look at it, I started to notice some things about it. And the first one was kind of, oops, what you hear. And this I'm not very good at holding left-handed, but so first of all, you can see at rest, there's a problem here. Look at the break angle of this high E string. That's marginal, right? It's troublesome. Okay, there's very little, because you notice that here, this part of Vibrola holds the string up anyway, so that doesn't help. So if that were the way it was, that'd be a bit better. But as soon as you pull it up, so there's it at rest, and that lifts it right out of the thingy that we know and love, that thing called, focus will you, right out of the saddle. Completely different scale length as soon as you lift that up. So that's the problem with this. Now, why is it like that? Has Simon got it set up some way that isn't appropriate? Well, no. If you think about this, the overall possibilities for any guitar are set by the neck body joint, right? And if you look at this is about a 1 degree, maybe a little over 1 degree joint. It's a nice low angle joint that is so beloved of SGs, unlike a Les Paul, which is much bigger. Now, the only downside about having a low neck body angle joint is that you end up with a limited amount of room for the bridge. And you'll see that in this case, it means the bridge is pretty low. There's not a lot to go. We can take it down a little bit lower if we wanted to eke out that last bit of action here, but we can already see that the bridge going any lower is not going to be a very good idea, because it'll effectively be like that, with the string missing the saddle altogether. So the problem is this geometry here sets a limit to how much space there is here. Unfortunately, this device here doesn't like living in that small space. It's not designed for it. So this is really designed, although they probably made it for this guitar, it shouldn't work, it can't work with this angle. It needs a higher bridge, right, to give back, as you can see, that this bridge simply needs to be higher up to recover the necessary, I can't really see it very well now, to recover the necessary break angle on this string, which even with this thing badly positioned is still too little, okay? And the reason for that is because the strings exit the top of this spring mount unit here. And unless there was some way of adjusting that, which I don't really see there is, in other words, this front edge has to be lower for a start, then there's no way of really successfully using this tremolo vibrato with this guitar. Now that's a mistake, okay? There's no two ways about it. I've been doing this long enough to know that it's not me just making it up. This is a mistake in terms of the overall matching of parts. This is not a natural bedfellow. You might say, well, how would the greats of the old days get away playing this sort of arrangement? Well, who knows what the neck angle was on some of the original earlier Gibson SGs and so on. But in addition, in the olden days, people settled for much higher actions. So if I dialed this up about 4mm, we'd probably get back a decent break angle here, and we could then start to say, well, hey, this works with this unit, right? In fact, if I could be bothered, I could hold this here with my 7th free hand. Hang on, I'll just stand you. No, it won't. Can you just stand there for me? Ah, thank you. Just hold you there while I get a screwdriver. Wouldn't it be nice to have a sort of hovering camera? Okay, so let's imagine I'm the kind of person who likes really high action. So what I'm doing first of all is I'm cranking the bridge up on both sides, and what you may probably be able to see straight away is certainly ow, my back hurts. Certainly on the bass side, we've now got some space between the string and the what do you call this thing? That thing. Right? Well, don't worry about that. So that's actually not so bad. Hey, we can work with it. That's a good thing. That's how it was meant to work, wasn't it? That's right. So what are you complaining about? Well, that's what I'm complaining about. That's not ideal, is it, really, folks? Okay, so the truth is, unless the action was that high, or there was more space down there, we can't make it work. And of course there is more space down there if this was a Les Paul, because the angle is greater on the neck body join, and what it means is that this thing would have space to sit and do its job. But as it stands, we literally can't do it. So I've talked it through with Simon, and he wants it removed. He wants it returned to a hard tail, stop bar thing. He wants a very low action, as do most people who have SGs who like to play fast lead guitar. SG necks are brilliant for that. So you can have a lovely low action because the neck is perfectly suited for it. But what you can't have is this beautiful thing. Now, we're going to take it off, okay? And one of the other things you might be able to see here is, look what happens when you operate it. This isn't really how this unit is supposed to work, but you can see that because the wound strings are gripping the knife edges of the saddles, you can see that what it's doing is it's rocking the bridge backwards and forwards, which it would be okay if that was a Mustang and the bridge stood in a hole on little pointy things and was designed to rock instead of drag the strings over the saddle, but this isn't. This is designed to drag the strings over the saddle, which it sort of does eventually when it runs out of rocking. So it's a mismatch of things. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this off, we're going to put a roller bridge on here, and we're going to drill and put a stop bar in here. But what we're also going to do, which is something that Simon saw somebody do on YouTube and actually liked the aesthetic of it, is we're going to cut off this, but it's going to be cut, I'm afraid. We're going to cut off this bit here, and we're going to use this to stay on and keep the feel of the vintage Vibrola, even though it isn't actually, whoops, wrong buttons I'm pressing here. Even though it's not actually a Vibrola, we're going to leave the look of it on, partly to hide the screws and everything. We could take it right off. We're going to get left with some screw holes. In the YouTube video, the person who did this same thing or similar thing was what he did was he bought a Gibson, oh, I've forgotten the name of the artist. Anyway, a Gibson sort of artist unit that you can buy without this bit on it. So it's deliberately designed for covering up the old screws. And so it's a known aesthetic. And I think that's a good idea for this. You know, there's no point crying over spilt milk. This thing cannot work with this configuration, and there's no way of changing this. You can't change the angle here. This is non-functional on here, and it doesn't really belong on any other guitar unless you really, really want one on your Les Paul, and then it's worth putting on there. But probably can't even get one on a Les Paul due to the shape. I'm just making that up. In fact, there's probably no other guitar that this will work on. It's got to be a flat top, isn't it? So it's just a mistake. It's a design oversight. You know, people these days want low actions, and this thing it's not built in a way that fits under the available space with the neck geometry the way it is. End of psychoanalysis, really, for this thing. I'm going to hang you up here, and I think I'm just going to think through out loud in my head. No, just out loud. Get a little bit of focus there for me. That's a good thing. I'm just going to dangle you there. We're only on a one camera thing today, so I'm not even using my fancy film clapperboard. I don't think I'll get very far on this today. It's okay though. I've got till the end of the weekend in my schedule to do it. So, and I've got another guitar as well. So my first thing was I going to do a setup, and I had to think it through. Now there's a sort of particular order. So the way I'm going to do this order is I'm going to remove the strings. I'm also going to, oh yes, that's the good thing. I'm going to test out, put into action, I've got dust everywhere at the moment, put into action one of Gerard's fantastic nuts. I think I might have spilt a couple. There's one in the bottom there. Right, Gerard has made me some Tusk adjustable nut bases, printed them. 3D printed them. That's a brilliant thing. So we've been talking about with him for quite some time about making one of these things for me. Of course, he offered to see if he could make one. I've got one here which was made slight curvature on it, so I've kept it separate. We'll remove the base and replace it with one of these new ones. We'll sort of ditch the other one. So the idea is we're going to replace the new bone nut, which is on there, which is new bone, but we're going to replace it with one of these Tusk adjustable nuts. And Simon very much wanted one of those because he really liked the idea of it, meaning that we don't cut into the nut slots, and yet we still have an adjustable nut. So one of the things I don't immediately know is whether these fit. Yes, they do. Fabulous. Look at that. 3D printing at its finest. So this isn't one of the good ones. Now I've got to find a little bag for, oh, it was really sweet, is that Gerard made me a little box with the printer as well. It's quite odd when you see all the, I don't know how well you can see that, but you get to see all the little sort of computer lines. I don't know, if you've never seen a 3D printed thing, you might find this quite curious. Hopefully this is what the iPhone does best, right? It shows the chewed ends of my fingers amongst other things. But look at that, that's amazing. You can press that in and break it off. But what you can't deny is you've got a cute little box lid that goes with a cute little box for putting your stash in. He said putting your screws in or something. I thought, oh, I know what you mean. And then here's the printed base. It's a little bit curvy at the moment, but it will straighten out, or it'll flatten out completely when we put the unit onto the thing. You know what I'm saying. Oops, I've gone into super zoom out. I think that's about right. Maybe 1.1. There's probably a button you can hit that gets you back to 1, but I never find it. Okay, so those are things I need. These, I think I'll just put to one side so I don't lose and get them mixed up. Right, so we're gonna, I guess what we'll do while we're here is I'm gonna take the strings off. Gonna change the tuners while we're at it. We've got a set of locking tuners here. It doesn't like these. 15:1 snot coloured things. I'm going to keep these strings as sacrificial strings for the fret leveling that we'll do. These are so loose, it's horrifying really. I don't know how they ever work, these tuners. And they're only 15:1 anyway. So what we're going to do is take the strings off. There they go, they're falling off really for us. Take this off. I'm going to start marking up for the stop bar. Now I've ordered a stop bar in, I haven't got one, but I may have one here that I can just use, or I can just position the posts anyway and drill the hole. I may have some new base, what are they called? Studs, bushes that we can put in and then just wait for the new stop bar to arrive. I've got quite a few older stop bars, but best start with one that's new. They're only £6 or something like that. So very easy string loading on this Vibrola. I mean, it's a, you know, when we discussed this guitar on the phone, you know, the one thing I was saying to Simon was that in principle, there's nothing about this Vibrola that shouldn't work. And you know, a lot of people have reservations. Yikes, look at that. Now, is there any adjustment we can make? No, we can't. Short of bending this thing and actually changing the whole spring arrangement to lower that down. I mean, truth is, we'd be probably just as well off trying that first of all, but let's have a see what we've got. Yeah, we were talking about it, and one of the things I was saying to Simon is that there's no reason why a Vibrola simple unit like this shouldn't keep very good tune in use. But the problem is, of course, not really even about the tuning, which is anyway down to a mixture of the bridge, particularly the nut and the slack in the string. So most of the factors aren't anything to do with the tremolo or the vibrato unit itself. But assuming the nut was right and the strings were fully stretched, there's no reason why this wouldn't operate as a good vibrato, other than it's wow, we're missing a screw altogether. We're missing 2 screws. Wow, is that a factory? Couldn't be bothered. Blimey, somebody couldn't be bothered. A little bit chewed as well, I have to say. Now what I'm thinking of is, we can always put this together. What I want to think of is there actually any way of bending this spring out? Really no harm in trying. No reason not to try, since it's not really going to do anything. We're only going to Dremel cut it to hell and back in a minute. These are being put on a bit roughly. It's sort of not stripped, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Somebody's attacked these very hard and missed several of them, as you can tell. So yeah, so you know, we were talking about the general, the tremolo in general, and there's no reason why it shouldn't work on this guitar, apart from its basic design problem, the geometry issue. It's funny because you'd think, you know, when you're looking at this, you often think, surely the manufacturer's got it right and I've made a mistake in my evaluation of it somewhere. But then you kind of look at it and you realise, no, there's no other variables at play here. There's either enough room for there to be a good enough string angle over there, or there isn't. Okay, so what we've got is a pretty little unit, which I'll end up putting back together like that, and I think I'll end up cutting this and sanding this back here, unless I can do a bending out. Now I'm just going to go straight to my vise, get some advice over here, and I'm just going to think about what I can do. Let's have a look at this. What can I do with this? Let's start from here. Let's give it a crushing blow, shall we? Bend, then it should be life. That could just be doing spring type things, and that might be absolutely no use at all. But you never know. So I'm just thinking out loud, you know what I'm saying? The other thing about this, of course, is let's just look at this. We've got a thing here that's holding it in a particular direction. We can put that back together again. Okay, so that holds that there. One way we could probably get that sit slightly different with a bit of a bend open as well, but the trouble is we still don't have the brake angle unless this is still all lower. I'll tell you what, I'm not going to give up. Let's try a couple of things. Let's get this, put a couple of screws back in just for the time being while we, well, in and out. I suppose I ought to get the mechanical power driver. We'll give this a go. See if I can do anything with bending it. And if not, we haven't lost anything. Put this on here. Okay, so let's just see where the string would sit in this case. Not going for the E because that's a bit too fiddly. Right, that goes under there, sits like that, sits there. It hasn't really, I don't think that's done anything major. Now, I think this is, it should be very, very difficult to bend this flat. It's a spring, for goodness sakes. It's designed to spring back. I mean, apart from, unless we had a crushing force bigger than what I've got, but even still, what do we get? We get a slightly lower thing, and then could we get this to rotate differently? Okay, hold on. So that's sticking up there too far. That is more like it, but then the back end goes up. Now, I think we're on a loser, I'm afraid. Much as I would have enjoyed bashing the living daylights out of it. I mean, about the only other thing I can think of doing is lump hammering it, or rubber hammering it. But it's eventually just going to flat out, and that will be the end of it. It's too springy, really. I don't think we'll ever get it to do what we want it to do. Maybe it's a little bit flattened out on one side, actually. Tiny bit. A miniature bit. But, like I say, not exactly going to be easy, whichever way we look at it. Well, it's flattened it a bit, but I still think it's not going to be, still isn't going to be enough to lower it to where we need it. It doesn't look that much different, to be honest. I'll put it on one more time, and then we'll take one look. And if it doesn't make any difference, we'll mightily give up, at least this part of the game. So, got my little work list there. Have I got this plugged in? I've got it plugged in. Is it on? Yes, it's on. paint off the vise. What the heck? Wrong end, full. Oh, that's very cool. That's amazing. That's actually sheared screw. Fabulous. I wonder if that's what they did on the other side. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna give this up as a no-go. Okay, well, it ain't the end of this world because we're just gonna cut this off now. I think what I might do is I might hacksaw it rather than Dremel it, and then thankfully we'll use the other side to anchor it down. Yes, I'm afraid you've had it. Right, let's have a see where it sits. Oh, well, would you believe it? Hacksaw is at my stepmom's as well. Taking a load of stuff over there, so I'll do it with the Dremel, but I'll just turn it off for a minute because it's noisy. Hold on. Bleep, bleep, bleep. Right, here we have it. Just need a little bit of filing, and we're away. Goodbye. So will I file it or will I sand it? I suppose I better file it just for a minute. Just bear with me. I'll be with you. Just talk amongst yourselves. File and sanding block. Probably maybe. Come on, Chrome, off you come. And smooth. So this would go on there like that, and you'd hardly see. Probably, okay, probably do a bit more. Just bear with me a second. Spin this baby. rather nice and doable. Rounded off with our friend that thing. And there's a bit of an edge there which I need to sand. I'll run down the file, run down the sandpaper. Nearly there. We don't want a sharp edge. It's quite difficult to get rid of it without scuffing everything else in the process. That's okay. Okay. Right. So basically, we've since we now have lost one of our screws, thanks to those people. Right, so what I've got to do is we're going to replace this, and I've got a new Northwest Guitars roller bridge over here, which should be, there you go, look at that, a straight on drop on. And in terms of height, they're exactly the same. Okay. Well, that's amazing, isn't it? To have something just blow out like that. Okay, so I'm going to need to do some marking up and stuff now. I'm going to do that off camera so I can take my time and not bore you. But the bottom line is, I will draw up a mark on here. We'll get the holes for the stop bar drilled. I'll get another screw for this missing bit here. We'll leave that one in there where it is. It was held on with one before. It's going to have to be held on with one since now. The other thing I think I'll do while I'm at it is I'm going to take these off just so I can give this whole thing a clean around. That's something I like to do. I have to be careful with these Wilkinson pickups because they've got the lightly stuck on letters. And if you're not careful, we go to clean them up and the little things come off. That's chunky, that is 4-ply. That's a big chunk. Okay. Right, so I'll go and get my measurements sorted out and get a mark and get a hole drilled. Don't know what that wood is. It's interesting. Odd. I'll also take off the truss rod cover while we're here to allow me to get the nut off, and then we'll be able to adjust the truss rod as well. Okay. Let's start by getting the nut off. It should be a straightforward tap. Straightforward. I see. That's unusual. They've lacquered right over the top of the wood where the nut sits, which isn't normally the case. So let's have a look where our little chap sits. Right. Well, that needs a little bit of thinning down, but not that much. But we need to clean the slot out anyway because it's full of gloopy that stuff. So that's a bit of fiddling to do. I'll do that off camera with the radio on. See you in a minute. Kettle's boiling. Just to bring you back, holes drilled, tailpiece here, ready to go on, top of guitar polished out. Obviously I'm going to polish it again because it's going to get dusty from the fret leveling. I'm doing my best to do as much as I can this weekend, but I have to say I had the coronavirus vaccination on bloody hell, Thursday actually. and quite frankly, I have felt a lot better. I'm still a bit clammy and feverish, so I don't feel at my best, I have to tell you. So anyway, I'm going to do as much as I can, hopefully get finished, but you'll have to please forgive me if I look and behave a bit under the weather. I don't know what somebody behaves like when they're under the weather, but however that is, it'll be me. Whew. So, look at that, in they go. Obviously now I've got to put on tuners to make this work, because I've got to do up the everything's. And I've got to find all the bits for the tuners. Now where did they go now? There they are. Yeah, so I had to ream the tuners holes. I've got the shakes, I've got this clammy cold sweats and the shakes. Not a good look. There go the new tuners. Obviously the original holes are out of place. Stupid packaging, honestly. Yeah, the new holes are out of place, and it's not really any point doing much more. I filled the other ones, but I'm not going to paint over them or anything. It's not really worth it. It doesn't conceal them any. Yes, so it's coronavirus. I don't regret it at all. It's very evident that the body's doing all the right things in response to the introduction of the genetic trickery that makes my immune system think it needs to make defences, which is exactly what we want it to do. Thank you very much. So I don't have any concerns about feeling the way I do, or the side effect cost of it. It's absolutely worth it. What I found really interesting about it was how quickly the feeling went away. So to begin with, I had the injection on Thursday morning, 8:45, something like that, in military precision, brilliantly organised and everything. Got in, got out, well done, perfect scenario. Went off, and then spent most of the day after that building a sort of little garden sheltery thing for my dad, who spends most of his day in a wheelchair. No, that's not true. He spends all of his day in a wheelchair. Anyway, so there's a little sort of rain shelter for him to be in the garden, not have to run in as soon as the rain comes to play. Anyhow, so that's what I did, and I felt okay all of Friday, I have to say. I got everything done. Didn't suffer any discomfort throughout the day. Yeah, it was all good really. And then come night time, I found myself drinking a lot of liquid, very thirsty, and then found myself towards late night, sort of 11, 12, starting to get what felt like I could feel a fever, started to get the fever chills coming along. And by the time I went to bed at about 2, which is my normal late night routine, I was going through quite extreme shivers, as if I had a major flu or something like that, and felt terrible. But I knew what it was, you know, so I hadn't got any real sort of, not many real fears or worries about it. I knew where knew what the deal was. Then I spent a very feverish night through until the morning, when I woke up with what can only be described as a banging hangover, which is funny since I don't drink, but my God, that hurt. It was a nasty headache. And I sort of slobbed it out for the day, basically. I cancelled everything I had in mind and just decided I was going to stay there, and that was it for the day. To be fair, by late afternoon, most of it had gone and I was feeling generally okay. I mean, not brilliant, but not bad. And I suppose the really remarkable thing is just how quickly that disappeared, considering, you know, what a powerful sort of reaction it was, what a strong reaction. Anyway, that's done and gone. Although today, you know, I still feel considerably less than perfect, but it's not so much to worry about. I know what it's, you know, I recognise it's the tail end of a necessary process, so I'm not whimpering much. No, I'm not complaining at all. So, but yeah, it's. I know. Yes, there was also a arm pain that went along with it, which, you know, vaguely still feel it, but again, wasn't the end of the world. Needle didn't feel like anything going in at all. It was I don't think I've ever had such a tiny needle. But anyway, so it's all done and dusted. So I suspect it will be into next week before I feel fully recuperated. It's not a nice feeling this sort of strange stickiness. My God, did I drink liquid the night of the fever? Not normally a sort of all-night drinker, but I had to drink liquid. The fever drained it out. Anyway, so in case you haven't had your AstraZeneca Oxford virus, that's what to expect, possibly. I think that's a fairly standard reaction, actually. Don't think there's anything too unusual about it. And given the fact that it's tricking your immune system into creating defences for what looks like a virus but actually isn't one in your system, then I think it's a pretty fair, understandable reaction. Because of course, as always when you're ill, it's not the virus that gives you the temperature, it's your body that creates the temperature to throw off the virus. So anyhow, are we still running? Everything's running good. Yeah, I feel really, I know what will help me in my nasty sticky feeling. A lovely hot cup of tea, he said. Highly unlikely. I think I finally got my hot water supply back organised, so I'll be able to get nice clean cups again in hot water instead of washing them in cold water. It's not a very nice experience. Anyway, so yeah, it's not, no intention to be, what's the word? Oh, I don't know, controversial, whatever. I know YouTube doesn't like people talking about anything to do with so-called controversial issues, and it thinks such discussions of important issues are also upsetting to its advertisers. So anyway, Yeah, so I'm looking forward to middle of the week. I think this coming week I look forward to this middle of this coming week for 3 reasons. First of all, I'm going to feel a lot better, I predict, because the after effects of this vaccination will be gone. That's the first reason. Not the tastiest cup of tea anyone's ever made. Firstly, because the after effects will be gone. Secondly, because I'll have finished all the guitars I've got in to do, and I can take a day off. Don't get me wrong, I'm not exactly working myself to skin and bone at my pace. I have a very relaxed pace, as some of you may know. But it'd be nice to just have a whole day off and do nothing. And that will hopefully coincide with Wednesday, which will be also something like 17 degrees of glorious hot air in this part of the world. So I'm looking forward to the temperature, enjoying the warmth. Okay, so now for the first time, this thingy has got a stop bar. I'm also now going to put on this what do we call it? We'll put the tin can thing back on. No, I'm being rude. The Vibrola cosmetic tin can. And we'll use, these are for the side parts. Are they not? They are. There's a broken one. That wasn't very helpful. Well, we've got quite a few screws we can use for this. In fact, I'll find the one, make sure these go through. We might have to get some more from somewhere else if these don't go through. They go through? No, they're just a little big. Oh well, they don't have to be chrome, so let's get some smaller. Where did they go? As it happens. Oh, right, here they are. There's 2 of them. Yes, so definitely looking forward to Wednesday sunshine and a day of lazing aroundness. And then after that, if I have a break in jobs next week, I don't know if I will, but if I have a break in jobs, then what I'll do is I'll get a bit of reorganisation and tidying done up here, because I'm always, I don't know what the word is, promising I'm going to do it, never quite getting around to doing it. No, it's a nice luxury problem, you know, being busy enough and not having the time to kind of take care of the building up sawdust and all the stuff that needs cleaning up and rescuing things that have fallen down behind the pillar drill and things like that. Okay, so we got these little screws here, 4 of them. Make sure they sit on okay. It's a nice looking little unit, even to have as a cosmetic, really, isn't it? You know, and it's not a bad idea to do that with it. I mean, you can actually, it's Derek Trucks, that's who it was. I was thinking there's a Derek Trucks version of this you can buy, which is a empty tin can, effectively, to disguise your missing, oh come on please, get in there, cover up your missing Vibrola unit, or not to cover it up, to lessen its absence and to cover up the screw holes, which is fair and motivation for it. It's a little bit difficult to get in. Sorry, not very good camera angles, etc. Anyway, so that was my eventful end of the week. I just thinking of going up and doing. I had guitar work planned for Friday evening. Actually, I was going to do stuff on Friday daytime and evening, and there was just no way in the end it was going to work for me. So I just thought, nope, cancel. Get in there to about there. Yes. So hopefully all will be in order shortly. Now, this is proving to be mighty difficult. Left-handed, upside down. I can't turn this guitar that way to get at it. As you can obviously see, it's nigh on impossible to locate this. No, can't do it. It's all right taking it out because you've got a start point, but my God, getting it back in. Right, bridge will come off. I'm trying to think whether a magnet will help. I might do if I can actually get one off. Nope. Oh Lord. Then you get everything, including blades, stuck to the magnet that you don't want stuck to it. And now, of course, I can't turn the thing because there's a damn magnet on it. Oh, right. How far up here can I move this while it still holds? Yeah, maybe. God, this is annoying. Yes, so. Roll on Wednesday, I say. Roll on Wednesday. Hurrah. There we are. Quite cool looking, wouldn't you say? So now I'm going to put back on the strings, but the fun of that is going to be getting these already used strings through the so really I am going to need to pull them a little bit straighter or bend them straighter, which is usually where something breaks. I just uploaded a load of videos to just now, today, this week, whenever it was. Good old Bert received my SD cards, uploaded them to his laptop, and we did our amazing transatlantic uploady thing. So I think I've published about 3 already. I've got more left to go. 4 or 5, 4 more to go. So that's the slight downside of trying to start with a already used string with the ashtray thing in the way. With a brand new string, that wouldn't be a problem getting this through, but with a already bent string, it's just going to snap. There you go. I don't know why I bothered. Whether I can actually use this or not now is another matter. Actually, it's turning out to be a bloody difficult concept. Would you believe it? Oh my God. Right, we aren't going to reach it anyway, so that's a waste of time. Right, here we go. The packet of packet of Harley Benton's finest. Let's get my bit of paper. Double check. No, that's on guitar. Okay, I haven't written down on that what these were, but let's just double check the gauge. These are coming up as 45 and a half, so that'll be 10s. These will be D'Addario 10s actually. Well, I don't know what we'll go for in the end. Whatever we've got. Might be Fender 10s actually. These will go in the deck because they ain't no good. I'm just putting Harley Bentons on now for for the purposes, for the sake of doing the setup. So we're quite a bit of the way along, believe it or not. Swig of tea. Sorry, sound effects probably very slurpy. I remember somebody once wrote me a nasty message saying, "Oh, that's disgusting, don't drink tea while you're making videos." And I thought, who the hell are you? By the way. Let's try this. Oh, of course we're locking tuners now, aren't we? Right, let's just get them all in line to make life a bit easier to start with. Yes, I'm told not to drink tea whilst doing your job. Oh yes, I've also got to do something, which is to put in place the nut. To sit there nicely. In reality, I think what I'll do is I'm just going to lock this in place. I think what I'll do is I'll loosely lock off all of these strings, thread them, and then I will be ready to put some glue on the nut and hold it in place. Yeah, this would be the only consideration, is getting these strings through here. It's not impossible, it's just you have to curl the string a very little bit to get it through, so it's worth remembering that. So we're currently in the era of probably everything I and millions of other guitar people have ordered from China is currently parked probably in the Suez Canal, which I find amusing in a disruptive, didn't we expect it to happen at some point sort of way, you know. And of course I don't want anyone to have to undergo the inconvenience, myself included, but it's quite an amazing sight to see a great big tanker kind of doing the old Austin Powers 3-point turn thing, or not doing it even, just stuck, not going anywhere. But the idea of what they're going to be able to do to actually reduce the weight enough, I mean, that's going to require some unbelievable lifting technology. I don't even know if the Smith Tacks and the Hiramers of this world, as I used to know them in the oil industry, I know they've got massive cranes, but I'm never quite sure if they would even be high enough for lifting cargo off one of these beasts. So who knows? But crikey! Oh, don't tell me that wasn't 11. I'm going to do this way. The people at Thomann sent me a load of 11s no idea why they did it. They sent me 11s. I didn't order 11s. I ordered 10s and 9s, and it's too much hassle to go back to them. I got some 10s and 9s, but they also, some of them were 11s. So I don't think they looked closely. So I've just opened a set of 11s, which might as well be used as sacrificial strings, because I'm not going to stick them on any guitar in the near future, because I don't really know anyone who plays with them. I'm sure people do, but it's not a common gauge. But they will do the job for setting up, albeit heavier than I would normally use. But we will adjust the guitar's behavioural dynamics to accommodate it. So that's entirely what the truss rod, etc. are all there to do. Okay, so for this to work, we need lift this up a bit. Okay. So now I'm going to get a little bit of glue, which this one has now hardened up and is now pretty much unusable. That's probably gone chewy. Glue is a stupid substance. It either goes hard immediately and you can't use it, or that's still good. It seems to just, it either locks itself in place and you can't get to it, or it goes hard and it's like using rubber or something when you come to use it. So I'm just going to put a bit of that on there, and I'm going to begin by pressing that down into there. Now I'm going to load strings into it and put some pressure on the nut there. Oh Christ, I've done it that way. And that's not what I was supposed to happen. Okay, well, that's fun. It's the problem with these things, that you can't get them on quickly because you'll miss the saddle, the roller saddle. If you rush, and then if you don't hurry, you'll miss getting the nut pushed down before the glue sets, etc, etc. Right, that's on. So I'm just looking at this. So I've used one of the bases that Gerard made for me, and the question about it is it going to work? I think that's interesting. Looks like two slightly different heights going on here. Okay, so that's now flat on the deck, so we've got a bit more raising up to do. At this point the base becomes a holder, that's all it is. It's just to keep the whole thing in place. Put it in tune. Although it's going to be quite a lot of tension, but we can adjust the relief. Now, so at this point in time, this is looking Okay, actually it's a little deeper than normal. So maybe that, well, I'm trying to get to an exact size for these bases that doesn't need any further sanding, and this one has gone in without sanding along the bottom. But the slight problem about it is it in this nut slot, because I had to work on the slot because it was gummed up and it took a bit of the finish that shouldn't have been there anyway. Took a bit of finish out with it and took some bits of wood with it. Then you have to clean it up, which lowers it a slight bit. So this ends up being needing to be just a fraction higher, but I think we're probably just about there actually. Yeah. Now I'm just going to give these a pull. And I'll have to make an adjustment. My God, there's so much slack in there. It's ridiculous. It's coming through the bloody. I don't like these locking tuners. The locking tuners don't really allow you to do this, what I'm doing now. Right, let's just check the relief. Okay, so we've got an interesting problem here, full stop. So, and it's the same problem we had before actually. I measured the two bridges and they are the same. They won't let me go down. So this is a problem with the geometry. Not only has Vintage got the geometry wrong in this model, in other words, it won't work with this Vibrola unit, or what used to be a Vibrola unit is now an ornament, but the bridge is also too high. This is the same. This replacement bridge is the same dimensions as that one, but that's what was stopping us taking the guitar down in the action as well. So I'm now going to slack the strings off, and we're going to have to file the bridge. Not great. That's going over now. Now this actually may cost me the strings as well, because they don't like going, they may not come off loose enough to allow me to take the bridge out. We may be lucky. Yeah, we're just about lucky. Right, so just to show you, let's do a double check. So we're going from, okay, the width of this piece here is 853, here it's 870, so it's 0.2 higher on this beast. But apart from that, we're going from the saddle to the underside, and that's one of the E's, but let's call it the low E. Saddle is 1163, saddle here is 1350. Okay, so the saddle's taller on this, but I don't think that would have got there anyway. So what we're going to have to do with this, ideally the geometry on this guitar would give us more leeway than that, but it doesn't. So to make a roller saddle work with this, I don't really even think, I'm not even convinced that this bridge would get to the right action. We can do one of two things. We can either try this bridge back in place. Let's just see if we can get to the desired action with this bridge. Now we're not using the Vibrola. A roller bridge isn't strictly necessary, so we can have an option. But you can see there's hardly any room to manipulate this damn thing around. which is probably going to break because these strings do not like being stressed. In fact, it is going to break. This is stressed already. There you go. What a waste of space. I don't like these locking tuners. Sorry. The reason I don't like them is because, well, no, it's not true. I do like them, but this is why there's a certain way that I wind them. I wind them, and some people might think that it negates the whole object of having locking tuners, and I'll show you in a minute when I put a new set. This is a quid's worth of Harley Benton strings gone. Right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 10s out this time, chuck away these 11s, get some 10s out, and we're going to put them on. And I think what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to examine whether we need the lower one of those or not. The deeper nut base. So again, you have to probably get the little pliers out to easily remove these. So I don't think we would have got not sure we would have got to where I wanted with the standard bridge that came with it, in which case we would end up having to file that. Filing, believe it or not, filing a couple of mils off here is actually quite difficult to do. I'll get it done, but it's a beast of a job. Let me find now some 10s. Hello, can we have some 10s, please? You know, like the 10s I ordered when I ordered 10s. Thank you. Right, so start all over again. Again, these are going to just get thrown away. So, right, what I'm going to suggest with the locking tuners, the problem with locking tuners is if you put them on and then you pull them all the way through and clamp the thing and pull it tight, then what happens is you crimp the string, and if you then come back to slack and or go the other way even a fraction, well, first of all, the crimping, if you use just the crimping power to hold your string in place, then you've weakened it and it's liable to break, especially if you have to unwind it a little bit. It just doesn't tolerate unwinding at all. So I had to unwind it to get the bridge out to see how tall it was. And so as soon, it had already damaged it by crimping. So remember, if crimping alone, the blunt force of crimping is the means by which you keep your strings on, right? That sounds attractive, which is why you bought, or people buy the locking tuners in the first place, but actually it doesn't really work. That's what I'm saying. So what I do with locking tuners is I still wrap them round about, I don't know, what do I call it, fingernails worth, right? So that there is something pulling round the post, not much, but something, so that the holding power is not just the crimping of the string. So I try to lessen the force of the crimping, which of course, as you can probably use your intelligence to guess, is not a precise thing anyway. So I don't know, how do you know what is enough? Well, you could find out by wasting several sets of strings, couldn't you? That's not a fun thing to do. So rather than bust a few sets of strings trying to discover what the optimum, impossible to repeat every time force, impossible to measure and impossible to repeat force of pressure needed on your strings is, this is what I do. Oh, now I've got to get all the holes lined up again. Line the holes up. Now, I go through. I think the idea is very appealing. It's like all of these things sound good on paper, sound effort, and time saving. So people that now notice, by the way, with this adjustable nut, I'm coming in. Okay, coming in from the middle two strings first. So what I do is I pull it tight, right, and I'm going to pull back about that much, a thumbnail's worth, right? And now I'm going to tie it on. Oh, sorry, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie it on, aren't I? Right, so I lock it on, but this time I don't really concentrate on squeezing the hell out of it. I just lock it on and then I pull this one round. Okay, and what's really happening now is that the pressure of the string is now being taken partly by the that thing, the locking mechanism, and partly by the little extra turn of strength. Now, what it means is it'll work just fine, okay, and you may not need it right now, but there will come a time when you do need it. It will also allow you to either slack the string off. I think I probably squeezed that too tight as well in my enthusiasm. It'll allow you to slack the string off back to, you know, take the bridge off, move the bridge, whatever you've got to do. And you'll also be able to get it done up again without the thing snapping. Okay. So now I've done the two middle ones, I now can do all the rest in whatever order I want. The two middle ones just hold the string in place. So lock it on. Much less, try to do less force than I would have done in the past. Come on, it gets over the right side of the deal. Now this is obviously grounding out on everything now because the bridge is low, which we'll take care of in a minute. So yeah, you know, how much is enough? There's no scientific way of knowing. You've just got to trial and error it, and you really will. If you do it that way, you'll give yourself the freedom to take it, undo it, and do it back up again. Don't cost yourself a set of strings finding out the hard way that you can't do it if you pull it tight and lock it off. I did that plenty of times and had to pay the price. I mean, maybe it's only something you worry about if you're setting up guitars, that could be it, but it seemed to me that there comes a time where you might need to slack the string back off, you know, and it's completely worth giving yourself that extra. Particularly if you are using a tune-o-matic bridge like this, for all you know, it may require, and it quite often does, it may require removing and turning around the saddle pieces in order to gain the correct amount of intonation room, in which case you're going to need to do exactly this. You're going to need to slack off the thing and turn them around, and if they just break on you, then you'll be a bit depressed because it will cost you a set of strings for no good reason. Okay, right, so these are 10s, we'll get them. Now, the other thing, by the way, is if you do it this way, what it will allow you to do is something you won't be able to do if you don't do it this way, and that's what I'm doing now. And that's where it went wrong. If you've crimped these strings really heavily to keep them locked, which is the only way you can keep them locked is by crimping them heavily. The first thing that will happen is when you do this to stretch the strings out, you will pull the coils off, literally. It'll pull apart in the locking device, which is exactly what happened just now, which is why I knew it was not going to work. Right? But this way, with that extra bit of turn, okay, I can tell you right now that's working. And we can make it work thanks to that extra bit of coil. Okay, so now I'm going to hoist up the bridge to where I want it. Let's call it there for now. Let's tune it. Okay, we're touching out on the strings. Okay, so let's get back to where we were. Oops, a bit more stretching. We've got nice brake angle over the bridge down to the stop bar, which is fine. Yeah, that couple of millimeters difference makes all the difference in height wise. So still, obviously we still couldn't make it work with the Vibrola. That's a given no, but I think in this case, I don't think there's anything to be gained. By adding the roller bridge, I think we'll just leave it at the pneumatic. You're going to get detuning for quite a while. So we're going to get roughly to tune. I'm going to set the action as perfectly as I can get it. I think this is working okay. It possibly could work with a slightly, actually it's working fine. You could put a taller bass in, but it's standing up there and it's doing its job. So I'm not really going to worry about it. Okay, so now we're going to check the playing actions, do our adjustments. What time have we got? Yikes, it's nearly 7:30 already. It's taken me about an hour and some to get to this stage. Okay, so now we're looking at just over 1.5 there and 1.2 there. So we take this down a tiny fraction. Whoops, that was not the right way. Just about on. Okay, there's our playing action, and we're getting choke outs, which is what I expected. So that's what we'll now aim for. But now get on the case of eradicating the that stuff, choking frets. So to do that, I'm going to just gently move a couple of these strings out of the way, or several of them. I'm going to mark them up ready for fret leveling. I think we could probably, I was going to say we could use the U-channel truss rod, but that probably is a bit flat. No, sorry, it doesn't go flat enough. This is a very flat neck at the moment, so we might be better off with the standard one. Funny little mark at the end of this fretboard. I don't know what it is exactly, but somewhere it's like got a little stab with something from way back when. But that was a bit of a mess, that fingerboard end. Never seen one quite like that before. Okay, so what I'm going to aim to do with this fret leveling is to free up those bends. This is an SG, as you know. And the beauty of an SG is that the neck is incredibly responsive to adjustment, and so it's a very easy neck to make play very low. Probably the easiest of all necks. Sorry for the shot, just getting things ready. Yeah, probably the easiest of all necks to set for a very low action and a flat relief as well. And it's mainly because all of the truss rod length is outside of the body. If you think of it kind of like that, right? All of that is outside the body, so almost all the neck is the same flexibility. Tiny little bit thicker down here, but by and large, compared to any other kind of construction of guitar, this is got the most flexible neck of all, and so it responds to adjustment really well, and it also bends evenly, which I think is the important bit. So there's less peaks and troughs to have to kind of dig out of it, or to clean out of it. So straight away I have basically calibrated the banana tool, as I call it, the fret leveling tool, calibrated it to the curvature of this neck. And now straight away what it's telling me is that it's cutting here and here, but not here, which is a hint at me that it might need to bend a little bit further. So that little diagnostic tells me to recalibrate it straight away. Now I may still be right, and it may just be a very slightly low patch of frets, relatively speaking, and I think that is what it's telling me, right? That is telling me I've got it calibrated right, so I was correct. Worth rechecking, which is what I always do if the actual cutting seems to indicate either there's a low spot or my calibration's wrong, but in fact what there is a low spot in the way this neck sits. So what it means is to get into there, I'm probably going to have to work a little bit harder, and it's going to cost a little bit more in fret metal to get in there. Now in there, all of them are cutting up, and it's, except maybe one here in fact, and it's lighter here, so there's still a little ditch there, but it's now less than it was. So the next important thing is, once you've done that first bit of leveling, is try all your notes out. Now we won't try the bends out just yet, because it's not, the bends don't choke until you're over in the G track, which is obviously further across. So we're going to be listening out from here onwards, from when I'm in the B track and then into the G track, we want to now listen out for whether those notes now free up, and if they don't, we level a bit more and until we free them up. So it's always a case of check playing note first, followed by the bent note. So it's the bending from the 14th fret, which is choking, but it's choking across in the B track, sorry, the G track. So this is next go now, we should be listening out for it to clear up. But it's time to recalibrate to make sure we've got the right curve. Now that's now needing a little bit of adjustment. So you might say, well, is that because you got the curve wrong? No, it's because the relief curve changes very slightly across the radius of the neck, which is hard to believe, but it really does. That minuscule adjustment brought us back into alignment. Now this is the critical track, if you like. This is where we find out how beautifully well this method works. Remember, the 14th fret bending, 14th fret high E bend was choking out, and this is what we're hoping now to find, that this leveling into this G track is going to take care of that problem. That's the theory, but the nice thing about this method is you get to audition it. So first the notes, then the bends. See that? That was the choked out note. That's pretty damn good. I'm going to do a whiff more to get rid of the last little zzz at the end of it, but you can hear for yourself. If you will whiz back now to the first time I bent that note, you would be able to hear for your own ears that it was choking out. And now with this method, we have cleared that choke up. And I'm going to stop right there. Next one. Calibrate for the D track, and so on and so on. So isn't it elegant and simple? Yes, is the correct answer. Anyhow, what's happening in Reloved World? The thing is, there's no point talking about what's happening in the Reloved World in a way, because by the time you get to see this, thanks to my total lack of access to fast broadband, by the time you would get to see this, it's about 4 weeks old news. So yeah, it's kind of makes it a bit pointless, but then again, it doesn't matter to you whether it's old news or new news, it's just news. So in the Reloved Guitars family news, Claire is slowly recovering from her cancer operation back in September, and her chemo after that, which she got 3/4 of the way through with 9 out of 12, but will be continuing for the next year on the Herceptin treatment, which is in fact probably the most important of the treatments anyway. So she's tolerated that pretty well. But because she went into chemo, as people do, ditch there, that's a low fret. In fact, it's that one there. I can see it, it's 12. 13 is low. Let's try this again. Yeah, because she went straight into chemo after the surgery, and because she'd had radiotherapy in the previous time she had cancer 17 years ago, the skin on that side of her breast wasn't good, or wasn't capable to recover from the surgery. So after mastectomy, she hasn't only just beginning to recover now. So she originally had this sort of idea of, I think as a lot of people do, the surgeons and her hoped that they would be able to do a reconstruction right there and then, and that it all just heals and everything's great, and then you do the chemo. But in reality, it didn't work out like that, so it hasn't healed enough. So it's turned into a much longer thing than she expected, but I think what's great about it is that even though it's longer and drawn out, she, you know, every time we stop and think about it, the most important thing applies, and that, you know, when you think about it, she realizes that she's cancer free, and actually, you know, before too long she'll also be recovered from the wound, and she'll have been finished her treatment, and then she'll be in a longer, slow physical recovery sort of period. And I think the issues of, you know, how and whether to reconstruct, do surgical reconstructions, I think they'll be something for looking at down the line. They're always possible to do, and I just think that maybe the priorities will look a bit different. Maybe it'll be something she's very keen to do, or maybe it'll be something that she doesn't put on the same high priority list. Who knows? But you know, the great thing is that every step of the way she's cancer free, and that's the important part. Okay, so what I'm just doing now is I'm just going to dust off the bulk of this dust onto the ground. Right, so now we've leveled the frets. That has gone out of tune, but it's cleared up. Made the frets all play beautifully well. Now, one thing I do want to know is whether this is going to fight me for intonation. The reason I want to know that now is I do not want to find this out later when I put on the new strings, the final strings, and go to set everything up for the last shot. There's nothing worse than discovering that in fact you're going to have to take the damn saddles off or find another bridge. So the problem is, what I'm saying is, let's find out now, as close as we can, whether or not this bridge needs taking apart and the saddles reorienting, or even if it's so far off the mark that it's just not going to intonate properly, in which case we'd be better to do some filing on that roller bridge, which has more travel in the intonation department. So the answer to that, I won't, these are crap, aren't they? I won't yet know. Now my ears told me that the note was flat. I was wrong. Maybe I wasn't wrong. It's a tiny bit flat. Now the problem with that is that I would have to take these apart to get the extra 2 mils out to shorten them, unless the E is on target. Now the E is flat as well. Yeah, they're all flat. That means the string's too long. I've got a horrible feeling that it's the bridge that's in the wrong place. Now, here's the conundrum. I can drag most of them forward. The one I can't drag forward is the high E, and that's going to have to be turned around. And in reality, the top 3 would be better off turning around. Actually, no, top 3. Looking at the way it's currently set, yeah, top 4 probably. Give myself enough room, yeah. So that's a bit of a pain in the what's it, and partly because these are annoying little things, and that they've got little plastic thingies holding them on, plastic washers. Now I'm going to have a look and see if they'll come off and play ball. So let's do the fun thing. So we know that it all needs to come this way because it's long at the moment. So that's an interesting, telling thing. So let's take off the strings. So now you can see we've got this bit of extra wind on. We could reuse these strings in a minute. And we're more likely now, fly. We're now able to get the bridge off without having to take the strings right off, which is good. And we'll get them done up again. Right, so off comes our bridge, and this becomes the I'm glad I found out now and not later game. So let's just hang that out of the way for now. Stay. Right. Oh God. Right, we got a little nut on one side, a screw on the other, and a little crush washer. Oh, actually crush washer to hold it still on both sides. Right, so now we're going to have to hold this. The thing, of course, is I'm doing it with chrome, which is simultaneously blinding me as the light hits it. Okay, so anyway, the point being is what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around probably 3 of these sets of, if I can even get a grip on any of this. I'm going to turn around 3 of these if I can get them apart. I think I should be able to. Yep. So we take this off. Oh, yikes. Come along. Not easy, but not impossible. Right, so there comes the, oh, that's nice, that's good. I've actually made this a bit easier. So the first one comes out, doesn't it? Please say you come out. Oh, you can't spin there forever. No. No, 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 that's not possible. Oh my God. It's just... This is not possible. Something broken off here. No way. That side of it isn't spinning. That's not coming out. It's refusing to come out of the saddle. No way, Jose. This cannot be the truth. This cannot be. Is that sheared off? But then why isn't it coming out? Oh, well, this may be making the decision for us, I'm afraid. That's unbelievable. Unless I've gone completely doolally. No, I think I've gone batshit. I'm spinning the plastic washer and not the thing. Oh, Lord have mercy on my powdered brain. Now, this doesn't want to come out, that's for sure. That is well resistant. It's going to come out, but it really doesn't want to. It's not a good look for this. It's trying to strip itself off rather than come out. So here it comes out. Blimey, that's some kerfuffle. Right, so here comes the thing. Spin it round, put it back in. Push it against there, which is going to be easier because we're pushing. Cut its way back through because it didn't really want to come out, so the thread is not going to take it. It's not going to be very cooperative. It is a bit stiff for my liking. Holy moly. Why did they make this so difficult? After all of that, did the business with filing down the bridge, new bridge, so it's now fitted nicely, and got straight onto recrowning and polishing out the frets while off camera, because I always do that bit off camera anyway. So I've gone through sanding all the frets out, recrowned, sanded out and polished, with the last going over with chrome clean, auto sol chrome cleaner at the end of it all. And it's a bit messy, that bit, so time to take off this mucky tape, and then give it a sort of another clean up, all over clean with some that stuff, naphtha, and then we'll be on to stringing it. And I know the intonation's all right because I checked that, so that should be spot on, thankfully. But with all the things at the front, as we were going to have to get before, which is a sort of marginal thing really for a guitar. It means the bridge is as much only just about savably at its extreme position, really, which is why I don't like tunematic bridges, because you find a surprising range of slightly misplaced factory placed bridges, and the only thing that's going to save you at that point is the ability to adjust the bridge, adjust the saddles, the intonation of the saddles. And if you haven't got that available to you, then your stuff then becomes a real pain. So anyway, so we got it in the end, thanks to the new bridge, and a bit of sanding. I used the Dremel cutting disc to shift some of the material, which I've done it before with files and stuff. It seems to take an awful long time when working with a file, partly because you can't get it flat to begin with. You have to work it flat finally when you've done the heavy lifting, I suppose you could call it. So I now choose to use the Dremel cutter as the heavy lifter, and the sanding blocks as the fine tuner, which is okay. So let me just get rid of some of the remainder of this dust. I'll reset the bridge action in a minute once we get it strung back up. So I'll get rid of all the, let's use this to do that. I've got some new cloths, so let's use this one. The last roll of this cloth is dice. Let's get all that chrome cleaner off the frets. You can see a lot of leftover pen and chrome cleaner comes up at that point, but it's a good overall cleanup. Now that will remove some of the oil from the wood, so the wood gets a bit dry after doing the naphtha going over. So it's good to give it some oil after that, which I'll do any second now. Now after all of that, I put my water on earlier on and didn't get round to get myself a bucket of said water, but I'll do that in a minute. Right, in fact, I was going to say I'll stop the cameras again. I'll do that afterwards. Final tidy up, washing up and stuff. Right, so I'll just oil down these frets now, sort of last thing before we string up the new strings. And this is a very low action now. You've got to remember that if this is too low, then you can always raise it. But I always level and set for the lowest possible playing action. But the point being is you won't get any lower than that. It's you know, it's at its stops in terms of the geometry of the guitar. You can't really make it play any lower than this at all. Right. So what we've got here, we've got nines there. What have we got here? Would you believe I didn't check what these were? What did I buy? Isn't it? That is amazing that it doesn't actually tell you which is which. I bet you now if I were to put these on they'd be wrong. Holy damn it. Right, well that means I'm going to have to wait then because I haven't got the tens. I've got tens in the Harley Benton type. What are these? What are this headless stuff? No, of all the things, can you believe? Have we got any sitting around in here? Harley Bentons. I don't want to put those on. No, that's it. Okay, well, I'm going to call this as near as damn done it because it's as near as damn done it, and I just need to wait now for the right strings. I believe that I've not got them. I've got some on order, they're just not here. So anyway, the guitar won't get picked up till next weekend earliest anyway. So that's not a major problem. But it's annoying because I wanted to finish it. I probably got some at home kicking around in my supplies, but oh, come along now, would you please? Get up there. Right, anyway, So there goes a strange end to a nice guitar with some unusual things happening to it and a bit of a kerfuffle at the end, thanks to my best friend, the Tune-O-Matic bridge. So we're not going to get a chance to play it and try it out now, but you can see that the business is done. It's now got kept its vibe, its sort of Vibrola vibe, kept that, and reverted to a hard tail, which is a pretty good combination, I think. I think it's a good decision to do, because that, unfortunately, that was a no-go, that design of Vibrola with this guitar, which I still say surprises me that Vintage made that mistake. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this guitar into the bag. I've got a fair amount of bits to go with it. What am I going to do with those? I'll put them in the bag anyway. I just don't want things falling off. And that's it for now. Anyway, that'll be it for this one. It will go back. But thank you for watching. Sorry I didn't get to string it up on this bit of video. But hey, well, we got there.